Hi, and welcome to this episode of Brainy Moms. I'm Dr. Amy Moore. I am here with my co-host, Teri Miller, who is back from vacation. Welcome back, Teri.
Thank you.
And our guest today is Stephanie Dua. Stephanie is the co-founder and president of Homer Learning, where she brings 15 years of experience in public education to a team that helps parents raise children who love to learn. She's also been the CEO for the New York City Education Department's Fund for Public Schools, raising more than $165 million to support literacy and teacher training. And she was named one of Crain's New York Business 40 Under 40. She currently lives in Coconut Grove, Florida, with her husband and 3 daughters.
So glad you're here, Stephanie. Glad you're with us.
Hi, Teri. Hi, Dr. Amy. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today.
Good. I'm glad it worked out with this tropical storm that's happening in Florida, that your internet's not completely knocked out. You didn't float away. You're all good.
Not float away. Yes, exactly. We are here and thriving, despite the fact that I think the storm's tracking north, closer to the East Coast now.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in the South, and so we evacuated at least once a year for those hurricanes. So I feel your plight.
Yes.
Can't imagine.
Yeah.
Well, you refer to yourself, Stephanie, as an education entrepreneur in your bio, and we'd love for our listeners to hear your story. So could you tell us a little about that? What brought you to becoming an education entrepreneur? You are also a mom of 3 girls, so kind of tell us how that worked together.
Yeah. Well, so education has always been important to me. I grew up in a small little country town in Central California. The town's name is Waterford. You would kind of blink and miss it on your way to Yosemite. And it was, growing up, it was sort of, you didn't have a lot of choice. You went to the single elementary school. You tended to travel, 45 minutes to an hour each way to get there. And that was kind of the education for me. And I didn't have a view of like what I could be and where to think about my education kind of life and trajectory in terms of college and after college. But it was always important to me. And, my mom had never gone to college. So eventually I made my way. I was a Pell Grant kid and I made my way down south. I went to community college, had a great experience there, transferred to UCLA, and then eventually graduated after 5 years from UCLA in earth studies, earth and space sciences, and then eventually made my way to Harvard for grad school. But all along the way, I felt like it shouldn't be this hard to understand, like, what does a quality education look like? How do you get it? How do you use that education to fulfill whatever your best life potential is for you? And how do you help parents understand what those choices look like for them and how they can be a support to their child? For example, like as a parent, I would get questions, what should I be doing at home? What is school taking care of, right? All of this is kind of a mystery for many families. So I'd always cared about education, but I really got my start in business and in the sciences. Initially, I was working actually in Southern California. I managed a drill rig, and I worked, on cease and desist EPA sites, which was a totally different job. And then I ended up working at McKinsey & Company in consulting during the dot-com boom and bust. But education was always my calling. And so when I had an opportunity right after 9/11 to work with Mike Bloomberg and Joel Klein and Caroline Kennedy in the Bloomberg administration, I thought that this was like a perfect opportunity for me to do something that I was passionate about all along. And so what I learned so much from working with that team there, but, coming out of that experience after working for 3 terms of the mayor, you saw all this great progress happen in the schools, really providing greater resources, better training, really thinking about teacher training, principal training, materials that are needed at schools. How do you help special needs kids? Really thinking about how do you kind of turn things around in the largest school district in the country. But coming out of that, I realized that we had progress at a small level, like at the school, at the district level, but there wasn't anything we could look at and say, like, this we could actually do well in one area and make this a national change. Mm-hmm. And that's where everything fell apart in education reform. At the same time, I had a daughter who was struggling reading. And so I had access to these great experts. I had access to the best of the best experts, right? We were able to convene all these incredible minds. And they basically said at the time that there was nothing they trusted for their kids in reading. And so I thought, okay, here I am, a pretty well-connected mom to be able to find resources. What does a mom do who doesn't have that ability to know who to go to? And is there a way we could help moms in these early years by providing them kind of the best resources possible so that they can really be their child's first and most important teacher? My daughter was 5 at the time. She's 17 now, which is impossible for me to even imagine. She is now applying to college and thriving. But, you both know this, you're experts in this, it was a very bumpy road. She struggled with short-term memory. And so so that came out in both reading and math. So she had a really hard time in any multi-step recalling the first steps to carry that over. And so, that was a journey, but, I kept coming back to, well, how can parents, how do you as a parent, when you feel so helpless and you have a kid who wants your support, how can you help them and provide those resources? So that's why Homer was created. I wanted to start with reading because what we learned about reading is kind of this gateway, right? And so if you're not a really strong reader by 3rd grade, then confidence comes into play and kids start to view themselves as not being good readers. And they opt out of tasks that require more advanced reading. And that then starts to add onto itself. And that's the problem I wanted to solve. We know that about 2/3 of kids are not deemed proficient readers by 3rd grade. It's an enormous issue. And parents felt really helpless. So how can we provide great skills and resources? And now we're doing math and social emotional learning. But really, how do we, in its broadest sense, think about how can we partner to parents? So that was really the origin story for Homer.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. A lot of great programs are created out of necessity, just like that, by parents who can't find what they need for their parents. I mean, that's how Learningrx was created, for sure.
Yep.
So talk to us a little bit more about Homer and, what those programs are and what you offer parents.
Yeah, because I want to have you clarify for people that are listening. They're like, wait, started Homer, what's that? I mean, I know it's out there everywhere. We think everyone in the world knows about it, but for those people who don't, if you could just clarify a little bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Homer's a program, an early learning program for kids really aged 2 to 8 is kind of our sweet spot. And we have 3 products. We have a digital product, which teaches reading and math. It's an app that you can download from our website, learnwithhomer.com. And it's really covers kind of those foundational skills, those early foundational skills that help kids get ready for preschool and help them get ready for kindergarten. And then we pair that with these gorgeous little activity kits because we really know that some skills are great being taught on a digital program. In fact, that's in some ways, we could talk about it, the best way to deliver that skill. But some things aren't so good on a digital product, right? And you really need manipulatives, you need to touch it, to feel it, to really learn the skill. And so we have activity kits that pair beautifully with the skills, the digital skills. So we have activity kits with reading, with math, and with social emotional learning, so that kids can really play with that offline. We call it our offline products. And then we have some partnerships, like we have a partnership with Gymboree where we're providing classes, because there are other areas where the skills are best taught in a collaborative way, parent-child or in a group setting. So the way we approach early learning and our mission is to provide the best start possible for kids and helping partner with parents is we've taken all of these skills, right? Most parents are just like, what? How? I don't even know what skills my kids need to know by kindergarten. It's a big black box and it sounds kind of technical and it sounds hard to even when they hear you need to know that they need to know phonemic awareness. Well, what is that? What does that even mean, right? And so what we do is we've done all the heavy lifting and taken the skills. We've mapped those skills to the ages that a child needs to learn those skills by. And then we've thought about what is the best way? How do we how do we teach those best? And that's really kind of our what we call the Homer method, which identifies the skills, it presents the skills, kids can practice those skills. And then what we really think is that kind of the beautiful part of it is we really focus on how kids transfer those skills. So once they learn a particular skill in one setting, mastery is really when they can take that skill in that one setting and transfer it someplace else. I give this example of a Homer parent who wrote into us saying she was amazed that her child had stacked up all of his stuffed animals and he had categorized them. You know, what are the reptiles? What are the mammals? What are the amphibians? And he was talking to them as they were. He was like, well, you're a mammal. I'm going to put you over here. And the mom was like, how did you even hear about this? How do you even know what that means, much less categorizing them correctly, right? And he said, oh, I learned that on Homer, right? And so that child had learned something, a knowledge concept, and then had taken and transferred that. And to us, that is success, when kids can take those skills and transfer them into different settings. And that's really our mission at Homer.
Nice. Well, hey, I'm going to veer from our little interview plan here. And I'm going to, just for our listeners and even for my own application and understanding, I'm going to kind of ask if you can help guide me into how I would apply this. So for example, one of my grandsons is going to be 5, August 16th. It's a complicated story, won't bore you with the details, but he is actually, my oldest daughter is his legal guardian, and he's had some neglect and struggles. And so he's not at the place we would wish he would be to head into kindergarten. She's looking at just doing preschool right now. He doesn't understand basic phonics. He doesn't have basic math concepts. And so for a kid, even if it's just anybody's kid, so just for example, a kid that's 4 or 5 years old, you're looking at, should I start my kiddo into kindergarten? What skills do they need to have? And I've done nothing to prepare them for this. Tell me, what would I do? Where would I go? How do I get my little Andre hooked up with the Homer Learning Program so that in the next few months, maybe over the next year, he can begin to prepare those skills so that when he does head into kindergarten, he's not a dumb kid. He's a smart kid. He feels successful. He's got the tools he needs. Where do I go? How do I start?
Yeah, it's a great question, Teri. And I love his name. That's my husband's name. So it's
Andre, really?
Yes, Andre.
Okay.
So I think of it in 3 steps. So first, I think in terms of getting access to the Homer product, go to learnwithhomer.com. You can download the app. I would start with the app. So what the app does that's quite unique, and it would be especially good for a child like Andre, is it's the only product in its kind that really is not just a supplement for reading. So it doesn't assume you're being taught reading some other place. It's actually sequentially teaching a child to read.
Okay.
So it starts at the very beginning with the earliest sounds, and it really focuses on phonemic awareness. And for your audience, like, what is phonemic awareness, right? And I would say don't even worry about understanding what phonemic awareness is. The most important thing is to know is it's the most important component of reading. And it's the thing that most schools get wrong. We can go into that. It's a separate conversation of why that happens, but it actually happens. And it's most correlated with later reading success. So I would say focus on the sounds, focus 100% on identifying the sounds, practicing those sounds, tuning the ear to the sounds. So what Homer does is it repeats that sound in the same way. So it trains the ear to hear that sound and then map it to a letter. So I would start there with Andre, really focusing on building that skill of hearing the sounds, mapping the sounds to a letter. And it's the decoding and encoding, so that they can start to learn to read and spell at the same time.
Okay.
Homer was proven after 6 weeks, 20 minutes a day to deem a kid kindergarten ready. Now, every child is different, right? So I would say try and use it. A kid's, aptitude is, and their ability to sit doing a lesson, is about 20 minutes, I think, at this age. about what I would say is the right amount of time. And I would build the reading skills, and then I would also build the math skills. So we have a math section in the product as well, that really helps, similar to phonemic awareness. It helps with numeracy. So it's really helping kids create that flexibility with numbers. So understanding how to understand what a number is, and then understanding how to manipulate numbers. If you just did those two things, I think that I would try, if it were me, for Andre, I would try and focus in a few things that he could feel mastery, because the key is confidence, right? So you want Andre to go in feeling in kindergarten that he's at least doing one thing really, really well, right? And the other things can come at a different time, right? You can scaffold those in and introduce them at a different time. So I would focus heavily on reading. I would focus on math. I would also try and get a few little books that he could start to read with you. And I think the key in that for parents is not to pressure the child. So you really have to let them lead. And if they don't know the word, that's okay. You can fill that in. It's really about getting the practice of opening a book, looking left to right, and really kind of building that habit of reading. What I did with my children, and the third thing I would say is what I did with my children since they were very young, as I said, you have to read 20 minutes a day. I don't care whether you're sick. I don't care whether we're on a plane traveling. I don't care whether we're on holiday. You have to read 20 minutes a day. And I wanted you to keep a little log of it. I got one of those tiny little notebooks, and they'd write in there what they were reading. And they would go through and they would try and write the book, and then they would put the page numbers that they read. It seems small, but it builds the habit of reading. And so even if you have to read to Andre, which you would in the beginning, that's okay. He can still write it in his notebook that he did his 20 minutes a day of reading. And I will tell you now, as having 17-year-olds, my 17-year-old just went to Barnes & Noble yesterday and came back with 4 books that were on the New York Times bestseller list. One is a book on the economy. She bought a book on a tipping point, so she's reading really quite intellectual. And she'll also read, the YA novel of the summer, right? But she reads, she's a voracious reader. And so I think that's all because you build that habit. Learning is a habit of mind, right? And so building that habit of mind is, I would say, the third thing I would do. So start with reading, then introduce math, pick 1 or 2 things he can do really, really well before kindergarten, so he's confident. And then I would apply the sort of 20 minutes a day of reading.
So great.
Excellent. Yeah. So we need to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor. And then when we come back, I want to transition to hearing some cool stuff about your parenting philosophy that you shared with us.
Yes.
Awesome.
Is your child struggling in more than one subject in school? Have you tried tutoring but still aren't seeing the improvements you were hoping for? Most learning challenges aren't caused by a lack of instruction. They're typically caused by cognitive skills that just aren't strong enough. Skills like auditory processing, memory, reasoning, attention, and processing speed. Learningrx one-on-one brain training programs are designed to target and strengthen the skills that we rely on for thinking and learning in every subject. Learningrx can help you identify which skills may be keeping your child from performing their best. In fact, they've worked with more than 100,000 children and adults who wanted to think and perform better. They'd like to help get your child on the path to a brighter and more confident future. Give Learningrx a call at 866-BRAIN-01 or visit learningrx.com. That's learningrx.com.
And we're back talking to Stephanie Dua, co-founder and president of Homer Learning. So Stephanie, you have an 80-20 philosophy of parenting. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yes.
So 80-20 is often used in business, really talking about how do you think about the kind of 20% effort that leads to the 80% of value, right? And I think that what that really means is how do we narrow our focus as parents? How do we disabuse ourselves of having to be perfect all the time? Kind of my parenting mission is to help us reject perfection as parents, and looking at all the ways in which that slowly creeps into our parenting mindset, and how do we simplify. So the 80-20 for me and how I've applied it, I definitely was, when I was starting Homer, running the fund for public schools. I had 3 kids. My husband traveled all the time. I felt tremendous pressure to do it all. I felt pressure to make sure that the kids had everything they needed at school, that all the healthcare was done, that there was dinner, that was a nice dinner, that was a home cooked dinner every night, and I was completely fried. There was nothing.
Superwoman.
Well, you're right, Teri, and we kind of think of superwomen as a positive, but it's not a positive because it has such a it's so hard for us to take care of ourselves if we're doing everything, trying to get everything right. So what I like to think of is how can we help parents understand what matters and what doesn't matter. I think as parents, we apply the same value to everything. The kids have to have great clothes. They have to have the latest this, they have to have, and our effort is spent that in that way. And it's just not possible to sustain it. So when I think of the 20% in that 80% equation, I think of it in 2 ways. One is, how do I focus on the special things and not the everything? So there are going to be a few things that my kids are always going to remember. What are those? What becomes kind of part of our family story? And how do I make sure that that is where my energy goes? So for us as a family, we love on Sundays to go have brunch together and we play Uno with the kids. And we've done this all the time. We always do this. We always have family dinners, no electronics, family dinners. We do this rosebud thorn. Everyone talks about their day, what was great, what it was not so great, and what are they looking forward to. That's an important thing for us. We also like to, spend holidays together as a family, and we don't invite anyone else. It's just the girls and my husband and I. And we really like that. That's a special time for us together as a family to reconnect after everyone's so busy. But those are special things, right? I also do scrapbooks for the kids. So they have these really beautiful memories. That's a special thing. But do I have to cook a homemade meal every night? No. My kids are pretty happy sometimes if we just, scramble some eggs or something like that and have breakfast. So it's really about balancing, right? And thinking about where do you spend your energy in a way that is special to your family instead of trying to do everything well as a parent. The second thing I like to say is, in terms of my parenting philosophy, it's many parents would ask, would say, I just want my kid to be happy. That's kind of a common refrain, but all else doesn't work. I just want my child to be happy. And I think it's correct. And many parents take that as a burden that they need to make their child happy. And so my philosophy is a little bit different. I don't view my job as trying to make my kids happy. I view my job as they're going to go through this huge range of emotions. They're going to have jealousy. They're going to have fear. They're going to have sadness and loss. They're going to lose a pet. They're going to lose a friend. They're going to lose a grandparent. They're going to have joy, right? Joy. They're going to feel pride. So they're going to feel this huge range of emotions, some of which are wonderful and some of which are going to be really hard for them. And so my job is not to band-aid that feeling, but rather to say, like, I'm here with you. I'm your support system. And as you're going through this really hard time, I want you to know I can't take it away, but I'm here with you. And I'm here with you when you need me in whatever form you need me. And I view that as a much more powerful framework. For example, my oldest daughter had a lot of health challenges. When she was in high school, she had to get pulled out of high school and be put on bed rest. And I remember these times because she was on bed rest for 2 months and she couldn't literally leave the bed. She had to be flat on her back because she had a spinal leak. And so there were moments where she was just crying, saying, I hate this, I'm not sick, I want to be back in school, and just these really low moments. And I remember as a parent, yes, my desire was just to solve it, right, and fix it, but I couldn't, right, and so all I could do was sit there by her bed on her floor, holding her hand through the night, and letting her know that I was there for her. And I think that is our job, to me, as parents, is helping them not fix the feelings, but rather honor the feelings and help them know that those feelings are a natural thing to feel when they're young.
Yeah, I love that, because if we don't help our kids manage those big emotions in the emotional safety of our home, then they don't know what to do with those emotions when they're adults, right?
Exactly.
And so that's how they end up getting fired from jobs. That's how they destroy their relationships with their mates, right? Because they didn't learn how to handle those emotions, or
Yeah.
they learned that those emotions were bad.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. And we often think they're too young to handle them, right? So we're like, oh, we have to protect them from those feelings. But rather, if they don't learn that, from an early age, then you're right, they don't have that confidence that when bad things do happen, because they will happen, right? Like they just,
Right. That's
it
life.
is life. Bad things will happen. There will be
Yes.
great times and there will be difficult times, right? But if they think everything's always going to be good, or someone's always going to come in to save me from this feeling, then you're right, they're not going to have the skills they need, really the most important life skills,
Right.
that they
Well,
need.
and they have a sense of entitlement too, right? Because this shouldn't be happening to me, right? Because
Correct.
mom saved you your entire childhood. Therefore,
Right.
someone will be your savior for the rest of your life, right? And that's not going to happen either.
And Dr. Amy, it's right. It also leads to tremendous anxiety for kids because they don't feel competent, right? Because if somebody's always coming in and doing something for them, the kind of fixer of the family, then they over time don't feel as this as psychologists, they don't have the same sense of confidence that they can do things themselves.
Right.
Absolutely. So I was a teacher before I was a psychologist, and I taught in a school that was based on the Reggio Emilia approach that Loris Malaguzzi created. And so he said, young children are strong, powerful, and competent. And when we do things for them, we rob them of the opportunity to show what they can do and to grow. And so when you apply that across childhood, right? And so I say this to my clients all the time: you are strong, powerful, and competent. You can do this. You can do this. And there's something amazing that happens, to a child's face. I'm strong, powerful, and competent. I can do this, right? And then you're there to guide them.
Right.
So I love that.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And I've done that with my 3 girls, sometimes better, sometimes not as good. And I remember my oldest, when I told her that I was no longer going to book her doctor's appointment, she started crying. She sent me some TikTok about like, when your mom says she's no longer booking your doctor's appointments,
Right.
because they have this, this push pull, right? They want the safety and the comfort, but the need to kind of also be out there. So it's a bit of a dance, right? And at each stage you can allow a little bit more autonomy as they go.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think for moms listening to this, I would challenge us all to do the hard work that requires. I would say, number one, it's going to be hard work. When Petey the goldfish dies, it is easier to flush Petey the goldfish and pick up a new goldfish.
Buy an identical one.
Exactly.
Yes.
That is way easier. You don't have to deal with your 3-year-old, 2-year-old, whatever. You don't have to deal with even your 8-year-old's tears. You don't have to deal with the tears. You don't have to deal with taking the time to comfort that kiddo, taking the time to help them work through grief. And that's the easy way out. And I'm going to say, number one, let's challenge ourselves, moms, to do the hard work, to let our kids have the dignity to fail, to let them feel negative emotion and know that they can express that in the safety of home so they can learn how to work through that. That's hard, number one. And number two, I would say, let's give ourselves grace for the times that we need to go buy another Petey the goldfish.
Right. And for the
There are times.
And the times that we screw it up.
Right.
Well, let's face it, we're going to screw it up.
Right.
Of course. I love that, Teri. And I would add a third one, which is, I think our natural reaction is to fix everything, right? It's like to get the to-do, we've got the to-do list,
Yeah.
I have it in front of me here, I want to check it off. I need to go get the new goldfish. We get into this sort of this productivity loop, right? Where we just have to be hyper productive and we have to be doing all the time and fixing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to challenge ourselves to pause and say, does this actually really need to be fixed right now?
Right.
Goldfish, right? Like, maybe it doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe you don't even need to have the big conversation. Maybe Andre won't even notice the fish is missing.
Right.
So you are spinning, right? Trying to get the new goldfish, worried about right? And maybe there isn't even a fix needed.
Right.
So we're previewing our own anxiety to try and fix something. I also think this comes up all the time in kids' relationships with friendships, where somebody says something hurtful, or upsetting to one child, and then you feel the need to call the parent and say, hey, by the way, did you know that, Sally said something not very nice to Jane? And that to me is a classic example of why are we being involved in this, right? Why can't we just instead say to our child, that must really hurt. Like that hurts to hear that, how do you feel? Like, how did it make you feel? And have them talk about how they felt. And even if they can't put words to it, maybe if they're young, they can draw a picture or write a story about it. And if it happens again and again, equipping them to say, well, what do you want to do about it? Like, how important is this friendship to you? Because, before you jump and call Sally's mom, maybe this is not even an important friendship. They're just kind of sharing how they felt that day, right? But we're jumping to, oh, we need to fix this and make sure that the friendships are fine and everyone's happy. So I think that's another case where it comes up often, where we need to pause, say, does this need to be fixing? Is this something our kid can do themselves? Right. And we're the sort of coach on the side to help them rather than the person coming into the middle.
I like that.
Awesome.
So
And
I want to go back to your 80-20 philosophy.
Yeah.
What one tip would you give to moms that they could start implementing that today?
Yeah, I would look at everything that you have on your plate that you're trying to do: transportation, food, laundry, cleaning, scheduling, sports, studying. Figure out, how do you get a C on something? Like, list them all down on your notepad. 15 things you have to do each day that you're doing in service of your family. And which of those do you want to get an A on? Like, do you want to do really well because it means something to you? Maybe you're like an incredible chef and cooking is like a way of contributing to your family. And that's great. Do that. Maybe you hate cooking. So how do you look at takeout or food delivery or something else, that's super simple? So try and get a C on, of your 10 things, get a C on at least 3 of them, and name where are you going to get a bad grade and you're going to be okay with it. That would be the one tip I would give.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Because
goes
we're
back-
not going to get it all perfect.
Right. That goes back to, Amy, you would remember, was it Laura Coe? And I can't remember. No, it probably wasn't Laura. Someone else we interviewed anyway, and she talked about her parents encouraging her to not do well, to not get straight A pluses.
Right. They offered her a reward to not get an A in math because she was so stressed about thinking she needed to be perfect.
Yes.
That they said, no, you can have a brand new bike if you get a B.
Yeah.
Well, that's an incredible thing that the parent did, because if you think about it, today, parents and children are growing up in the society of social media, looking at everyone's life as perfect, right? The perfect meal, the perfect clothes for the baby. Everything looks so beautiful, right? And
right.
And that's a very high bar to live to. And the kids, the pressure academically for them to get into school, well, college has changed and it's much harder to get into schools today than it was even 10 years ago. And no one's having that conversation with kids today to help them manage that process and the stress around that process, really.
Yeah. And just for our listeners, that was Dr. Pune Roni.
Thank you.
You should go back and listen to that episode because it was.
I knew you know it.
To that story. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are, and I think the last thing I would say in terms of the 80-20 is, today we don't have the same community around us, relatives. I mean, not all, some of us are very blessed to have that, but some of us don't. Like, we're far away from our parents. We don't have, so find community from an early age, whatever that means for you as a family, because I think that also can help in tough times for kids, knowing that there are other people they can turn to besides just you, as they're going through their ups and downs in life.
So good.
That. Yeah. So you mentioned that the importance of creating a path to confidence as kids head back to school. Talk a little bit about that.
So one of the things that we learned a lot is how important kindergarten is, when I was running the Fund for Public Schools. And it's important for one thing mainly, which is confidence. Kids pretty quickly, it's the first time they're ever assessed formally. Most preschools, pre-Ks don't do formal assessments. So coming into kindergarten, most children are assessed. They're assessed in reading, they're assessed in math. And that is a stressful moment. We think that it's not obvious to kids what letter they're being placed in for their reading level, but it is quite obvious as they start to get grouped. And it's an important thing for teachers to be able to do, to be able to group same skill kids, but it's a challenging time for kids because they're being evaluated for the first time. The second thing that's really challenging is parents feel evaluated by extension. So it's an easy opportunity for parents to get anxious, and so finding ways to kind of bring that anxiety down are important. So as you prepare for school, I come back to think of one or two things that the child can be really proud of as they enter school. It could be their music, it could be their sports, it could be they know every fact about a dinosaur, and they're really proud of their dinosaur facts, or they're really a great reader, and really celebrate those strengths. And so that in the moment when they feel like they might not have all the skills lined up that they need, could even be social skills that they don't have strong social skills, but they have a couple of things that they know they're really good at to feel proud of. And as a parent, reinforcing those things that they're really good at and having the child demonstrate that, I think is really important.
I love
So
that.
It's a big transition. It's a big transition for kids. It's one of their biggest transitions.
Absolutely. Right. We see that in the transition from elementary school to middle school as well. And so I think that is applicable for
It
both
is.
age groups.
It is. And that's why I think to some degree, part of our, job as a parent is to help them navigate that, right? So it could be sports. It could be they're just a great runner, and that's the thing that they love the most. What I also find is children tend to follow their families. So if, your parent is in the food service business, the child may love cooking, right? And all of that is actually really nice to be able to introduce to your child. A musician may introduce music to their child. And that can be also kind of one of those special things, not the everything. So again, it's just picking a few things that are important and doing those really well and not trying to do everything.
I love that.
that's so great. I love the idea that you can help build that confidence in your kiddo without it having to be an academic subject.
Correct.
That even with that kindergartner or that seventh grader or whatever, that it can be, you know what, you know so much about Petey the goldfish.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much you know about Petey and how much you know about fish in general. And that to build that confidence, that for us as moms to remember, it doesn't have to be, we don't have to berate our kids if they're not a good reader yet, if they're not good at math, but can I as a mom just focus on, you know about Petey the goldfish, and I am going to help build your confidence in that one area, because that will transfer to your developing reading skills, to your developing math skills.
That's 100% right. Yeah. And even using sort of knowledge as a way of furthering their skills. So when kids are passionate about something, if they're passionate about dinosaurs, using the passion about dinosaurs to learn math, right? So how do we count our dinosaurs? So again, like let the child be the lead a little bit, find that one thing that or two things that they're really excited about. I remember Isla, my baby, who's not a baby anymore, loved the Rubik's Cube. And she was like really fast on it, so she was so proud to show everyone. She'd be like, time me, and she wanted to go to school and show and tell and show everyone how fast she was on the Rubik's Cube. And that's amazing, right? Like, that's great. It's great to have something that you're proud of.
Absolutely.
So good.
Yeah. So we are out of time and need to wrap up. But this has been a fantastic conversation today. I would love to thank our guest, Stephanie Dua, for sharing the tips that you shared for parents and the information for moms that you did share. Hey, if you would like to connect with Stephanie or learn more about the Homer Learning app and programs, you can visit homerlearning.com, and we will also put those social media handles in the show notes. So thanks so much for listening today.
I had so much fun. Thank you, guys.
Oh, we were so happy you took the time to be with us.
Yes.
To our listeners, thank you for listening to us today. If you liked our show, we would love it if you would leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. And if you would rather watch us, we are on YouTube. So subscribe to that channel. You can find us on social media at the Brainy Moms, at Dr._Amy Moore, and at Teresa Miller. So until next time, look, we're busy moms, you're busy moms. So we are out.
See ya.